Hey guys, so I've had this goal to solve the 2x2 Rubik's Cube in under 3 seconds on average in competition. The reason is because a lot of non-cubers are notorious for saying that their friend can do it in 2 seconds. But if I can do it in 2.99 seconds, that's the same number, isn't it? Then I can be that mysterious friend everyone mentions. Hashtag yay! Do you think I can do it? Well, let's watch this video to see the last 9 years of my competition history. So back in early 2016, I used the Ortega method to solve 2x2, which is a 3-step method with 12 algs, and I got a sub 6 average, which I was happy with. Later that year, I tried learning CLL, which is a 2-step method with 40 algs, but I only ended up learning maybe 2/3 of the alg set. Regardless, I got my global average with CLL down to around a low 4, allowing me to get a sub 5 average in October 2016 and a sub 4 in September 2017. I never finished off the alg set though. Still, in May 2018, luck replaced skill. I got a ridiculously easy set of scrambles in Sacramento. For example, this 2.3 second solve was literally just the single EG case I knew at the time, and it was my single PR. During this era, I also didn't record any of my solves, so there's no footage. So snatching an official 3.1 average when my global was above 4 was crazy lucky, but it was also a double-edged sword. Why? Well, I was content with it, and I didn't think I would ever beat it, so I never bothered to learn the last 12 or so algs to finish off CLL. Feeling satisfied, I just stopped practicing, and the next 6.5 years go by. Oh, I forgot I also got a 158 2x2 single, but that's 2x2 single, which is just random luck and who cares. But then, we fast forward all the way to November 2024, which is just 6 months ago, and something happened that opened this cold case back up. Take a look.
I think it's over here. I think it's right there.
12 seconds?
Extra?
Yeah.
I'm a
Pause, I want to point out that I clearly didn't know CLL at this point because for this scramble, I was making this red layer like this. And then for this case, which is a CLL, I solved it in the exact same way that I would solve the COLL on 3x3, like this commutator like this. I tried to do that on 2x2, but that was an RUD alg. So I tried to do it like this, which is super awkward because RUD, there's no middle layer to hold on to for 2x2. So what I do now is this much better RUF alg.
Oh my Jesus.
Seconds.
The D2 cross is always the best solution. No, never. Like 90% of my solves are D2 cross.
So that last solve was a disaster, and here's what happened. So I was solving the green layer, and there's 2 pieces here connected, and then the other 2 are up here. So we can connect the orange bar of the green layer like that, put it at the bottom, and now the layer is done. And this is the CLL I got. I learned this back in 2016, but after half a decade of like not practicing it, I tried to recall the moves, I just couldn't remember what to do, and I ended up with a scrambled cube. Now I know it's like this, and then you just have an AUF. It would easily be like a mid 3 or better, but I ended up with an 8, which messed up the average. With a mid 3, the overall average would have been something like 3.3, 3.4, which would have given me 3rd place and the podium, but because I messed it up, I got 4th place. So I thought to myself, I should at least get one 2x2 podium before I retire from this kiddie event forever. And that's the moment when I finally decided to finish off learning the 12 last algs for CLL, so I could finally say that I knew the whole method. So that's what I did in the months of December and January, and by January 28th, I had learned all 40 CLLs and got a 3.03 average of 100, so I was getting close to globaling sub 3. I just needed a lucky batch of 5 easy scrambles to do it officially. So how long do you think it would take for my official average to go from 3.1, that was May 2018, to sub 3? Let's find out by first watching my performance in Mexico's Baja Spring 2025 comp in March.
8. 8.
Yes. So that was a 306 average, and I was really happy about that because I finally beat my nearly 7-year-old PR that I thought would last my whole life. And I was also happy because I finally did know full CLL at this point. I think 1 or 2 of the solves in that average were algs that I had just learned in the last couple months. But I want to show you why it's a bit bittersweet, because the first solve was a 3.24, which was the slowest counting time. But let's just look at it. So I was doing the red layer, which there's no connected pieces, but the red whites are like 1 off. So I did R prime, F prime to get these 2 in, and then R, U2, R prime to get that guy in. And I didn't know what was going to come after that because, well, that's just a lot of moves to 1 look, so I just didn't do that. So we do R prime, F prime, R, U2, R prime, and we get the easiest CLL ever, just F sexy F prime. So I did a U2 and then the alg, but if you look at the footage, I locked up like crazy during the F sexy F prime. With the easy CLL ever, you would hope to get a time under 3. The fact it was over 3 with such an easy case is kind of disappointing. So if that were like a 2.8 or something, you know, that would have been a sub 3 average right there, you know, just a couple months after learning CLL, but it didn't happen. This competition was also fun because it was in Tijuana, Mexico, where my friends and I ate Caesar salads at the restaurant that first invented them in 1924. And I got my friend Peter Ruete to compete for the first time too. He averages about a minute at 3x3.
25 seconds to jolt.
Ooh.
103. 103, good job, Peter.
Anyway, let's fast forward 2 weeks to the Orange County comp. Can I finally bring my 3.06 average to sub 3?
8 seconds. Seconds. Nice. 5. Alex? Oh, PR.
That was not expected. PR average? But I'd already given up on the average.
So the answer is no, I did not get sub 3, but I did get 3.02, which is even closer. Let's take a look at the 4th scramble, which was the most pivotal to this average. So I decided to solve the green layer. So we have 2 green opposites here, and the other 2 green pieces are here. So if I do R, U, R prime, that makes another pair of opposites here. So with an F2, they both become solved. And then R2, our green layer, is done. So now this is the CLL we get. About a week before this competition, I switched which alg I use for this case. So I used to use this alg, which is kind of like RUF gen and a little bit locky. And I decided to switch to this alg, which is 2 gen. And the reason I decided to switch is because I wanted all my 2 gen cases to also have 2 gen solutions. I don't really know why, but just for consistency reason. So I was really surprised that I got a time as good as 3.27. I was expecting a mid 3. But because it was a counting time and it was far above 3, I basically thought the average was in the trash, no chance of salvaging it. That's why the 5th solve is kind of interesting, because I saw it and I saw it's a 1 move layer, like that, right? And then if you look ahead, you can see that you end up with a CLL where the alg starts with an R move. So if I were better at 2x2, I could cancel to the CLL and probably beat my PR single of 158. This seems very sub 158able. But because I didn't want to risk blundering it and screwing up the average, I went very safe and I just did the R prime and then did the R again for the CLL like that. And I actually even locked up somewhere. So the fact it was a 2.3, you know, that's very bad for how easy that scramble was. But it was still the best in the average, so it really didn't matter. And there it was. Now I was only 0.02 away from my sub 3 goal. I also want to point out that the previous 2 rounds of this competition, I had sub 3 BPA, but then I got a really bad 5th solve. So I knew sub 3 was just around the corner. Let's see what happened just a couple weeks ago in Long Beach.
It's like, oh shit. On track.
Yes.
Okay, so that 1.93 was my second best in competition, and it's also my best that didn't have a skip, so obviously it must be a lucky scramble, and it was. So for the red layer, we have these 2, and this one's kind of like adjacent, and this one wants to pair with this one. We can solve it with R2, U prime R2, so none of the corners change orientation. So all the colors you see on the top and bottom will stay the same. So it's blue, green, blue, green. We'll still have blue, green, blue, green. When we do the R2, U prime R2, these 2 pieces will just go down and then back up, so they won't actually move. This piece is only affected by the U prime and end up here, and then this green piece will go up and then over to here. So we'll have a green bar and a blue bar, And that's the easiest CLL in the set. The algorithm is only 5 moves. I feel like in a case like this, I kind of 1.5 look at where if I close my eyes and try to solve it, I probably would get the AUFs wrong, but I know it's coming. Like, I kind of know like, okay, it's either gonna be this or this, and I'll figure it out when I get there. And I also know that like if this blue bar will kind of end up back here, so if I turn it this way, then if I do the alg, there's no AUF. So it was a pure 2-gen solution, and I'm very happy to have a 1 that didn't have a skip in it.
8 seconds. 8 seconds.
Ooh. So fast.
What?
Okay, this might be PR. Well, I don't want to jinx it yet.
Okay, second solve was a 2.08. That's my 3rd best in competition, so that's crazy to have 2 of your top 3 in the same average to start off with. And again, it's very lucky. Here's an orange bar. This piece wants to go here, and its partner is here. So it's just going to be U2 R prime to do the layer. So to figure out like what the CLL is going to be, it's kind of like, I like to imagine this piece does a D2 and then an L prime. So we have like white, and then the red is here. So there'll be red here and white here, like a headlights. This guy won't move. So just based on that, I know that like it'll be red, blue, red, green, and it's gonna be the F sexy F prime CLL again, the 6th mover that's, you know, the 2nd best. So I'm getting really lucky cases. So if I do those 2 moves, U2 R prime, yeah, we get the case, but it's, you know, a U2 off of what I predicted, obviously. So it's the same thing of like 1.5 looking, where I kind of knew I would get this case, but I didn't quite know what the AUF would be after doing it. But once you get to this point in the solve, you know that this color doesn't move, so the blue needs to do a U prime to end up solved at the end. So that's what I did, and I got 208. And in the video, I already said like maybe this will be PR average.
Okay, this might be PR.
That's crazy to call just 2 solves into 5, you know, anything can happen. But I mean, I had a counting 2.0 and I just needed a sub 3, so this was like off to a great start.
Spencer, 15.
That's okay.
Jacob.
Okay, the 3rd scramble is kind of embarrassing because it's also really easy. We're gonna solve orange layer, and we already have this bar here with this adjacent 3rd piece here, and its partner is on the top, also oriented. So we just have to do U, R2, U prime, R prime to solve the layer like that, right? But let's undo. And it's like, because nothing changes orientation, you should be able to predict CLL pretty easily. But I was getting kind of psyched out because of the 2 good solves to start with, and I was having trouble figuring out like, oh, is that a U prime or a U? I knew it was going to be a soon, obviously, because we have 1 oriented sticker and then 3 unoriented, but I was like not sure what was going to happen. And I think because of that, like I did those moves and I paused like for a long time looking at this. I was like, do I have soon or anti-soon? I should have at least been able to do a U2 and instantly dive into it, but I didn't. And another thing I want to point out is that for the soon cases, they're like really hard to recognize, but I'm trying to like train myself to, at the very least, know where the oriented sticker and its like partner, the one it's attached to, will go. Because almost for all soon algs that I use, the soon stick or the oriented sticker and its partner should be on the front face like this, where like one of them is pointing towards you, like not like this, but like this. And so even if I don't know what the other stickers are going to be, being in this position means I don't have to AUF again. But anyway, I wasn't thinking of that at that moment because I was like psyched out. So I did a U2, and then I had this case, which is like lefty sledge, and then that kind of U2 L prime U2 L thing, and then it solved. And I got a 3.6 or something, which was like bad. But like 2.0 and 3.6 average to less than 3, so as long as I didn't blunder another one, I'd be fine. Okay, for the 4th scramble, there's not really much to talk about because I was gonna do, well, we have the same thing happening with yellow again, but this time the 4th corner isn't oriented, and this is kind of like an awkward thing going on, so I just ignored it and I looked at, instead on blue, and I was like, okay, the blue 3 pieces, you know, with an R, I'll get a blue L here, and then this piece will go to the top, and then like, yeah, so it's like R, U2, R prime, UR or something. I can't look ahead that far, so I just figured like, let me do the solve and figure out what I get as I go. So when I did those moves, I ended up with one of the worst CLLs you could get. So I almost don't blame myself for the bad time I got on this. I think it was like a 3.47. I went as fast as I can turn, and I'm not a very fast turner, so it's like sexy sledge. And then you end up with another soon, but this is a good soon. It's just, you know, well, soon, and then AUF. So I don't really blame myself for how that one went, but this is kind of not good because I started off with 2 good times, but the average of the last 3 is actually above 3 seconds, 208, 3.4, and 3.6 is just barely above 3.0, so I had not locked in sub 3 despite the really good start. And at this point in the competition, I think a BFDI fan and his mom noticed me. We were talking about BFDI and he wanted like a photo or something. At first I was like a little annoyed because I'm like, I'm focusing on competing right now. But in some ways it was a blessing in disguise, because as I was talking to this family about the story of BFDI and how Michael and I started this series when we were 12 and we wanted to be like Total Drama Island and all that, it was taking my mind off of the actual solves and the competing, which I think is good, because if you think too much about competing, again, you psych yourself out. So I was able to go into the 5th solve kind of with a clean, fresh brain.
There, you're insane.
Whoa!
You're sub 3 average.
Sub 3? Yeah.
I got, it was like 1.9, 2.0, and then 3.5, 3.4, which are bad, and then 2.4.
So your 3-4 plays.
2.5 seconds.
So this was the final scramble, and I knew it came all down to this because I hadn't locked in sub 3 yet. But I knew that because of the counting 2.0, I only needed a 3.3 or better to get a sub 3 average. So I knew that if I just kind of did a safe, steady, run-of-the-mill solve, I'd get it. But I'd been in this situation many times before and blundered it, so nothing was guaranteed. So when the cube cover came off and I saw this, and I saw there's no significant bars, no L shapes, I was starting to worry that like this wasn't the average to do it. But, just because there's nothing right away doesn't mean there's no good solution later. So I saw that with blue, if I held it this way and did an F prime, you create this white and blue bar, and then this corner wants to go here, so that would just be F prime, R prime, and then you can just do U prime, and then it's just sexy move to put that one in. Now that's like 5-6 moves, so I can't look ahead that far. But I figured I'll get what I get. Hopefully I can recognize it really quickly. We don't know, it's a gamble. So I put it in, and look at that. I got one of the best CLLs. Like, this seems to be a trend with this average, but this is a 9 mover that's re-gripless. There's a lot of ways to do it. You could do F double sexy F prime, but that kind of requires a re-grip. I don't like the F move. You could also do like the Bruno case for like on 3x3, but I don't like that. So the algo used for this case, pure pi, is the same as this OLL, which, it's like wide R moves and there's no regrips. That's the best part. So from here I did a U, and I know these 2 red pieces will just go down here, so the AUF at the end will just be another U to line it up with the red. So do the ALG, do the AUF, and we're done. I was really happy to get a 2.47 because given that it wasn't 1 looked or even like 1.5 looked, that's a pretty good time. Like, based on what I saw in the scramble from the very beginning, I thought like even a sub 3 would be a stretch, but to get a sub 2.5, that's so good. So overall, the average came out to be 2.67, which is way below 3. Like, I was just expecting a 2.9 or maybe a 2.8, but now it's at 2.6. And then I guess like when I think about it, there of course is room for improvement, like that 3rd scramble that had like a very easy 1 look tracking thing where you had a Soon case on top. I think if I did 1 look that or predict it, it could easily be like a 2.8 or 2.9. So if the counting tabs are 2.0, 2.4, and 2.8, that guarantees the average would be 2.4. And just the thought that I would jump from a time above 3 to sub 2.5 in one go, that would be crazy. But I'm not going to be too picky. I mean, I just feel like the start of the average was so lucky that like I just have to be grateful for what I got. And with a 2.67 average, I think I'm satisfied with that, and I feel like I don't need to keep practicing 2x2 anymore, because that's an average I think I'll be okay with forever. Well, not like forever ever, but like just in the case that like I don't think this should be my main event. It's like, it's known for being kiddie, it's very TPS spammy, like I don't think it's that interesting. So I'm okay with 2.6 for now. That's all I'll say. So that's the end of the journey to sub 3 on 2x2. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.